We'll get to that. Don't worry. But first, yes, that's an example of how high tech the show is.
Yeah, it came through real quiet this time, Jason, but I think you got the point across.
Welcome to A Nice Place to Brew. I'm Jason.
And I'm George.
Welcome, Brando from Werk Force Brewing to A Nice Place to Brew. How's it going tonight, sir?
Good. It's going well. Bear with us. We've got the 2-year-old Mabel.
Hey, how's it going?
Amanda, I'm turning the computer around. There's Amanda.
Hey. All
And
right.
we are doing our thing.
Right on.
All right.
Right on. Well, we like to start off each show by talking about what we're drinking, and in line with you joining tonight's broadcast, we all have a can of the same Workforce beer in front of each of us. This is Hillbilly Haiku, a pre-prohibition lager.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yes. So this will be a first taste for me and probably for George as well. So
Me too.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't get to Brewworks as often as I used to, so this is our first one for me.
Yes.
That's cool. That's awesome. So that's the label of that can is my mandolin.
Okay.
So that's where it all comes.
Nice.
See, now when you say mandolin, I've been doing too much cooking, and I'm thinking of the little cutting instrument.
Not a slicer.
No,
Not a slicer.
not a slicer. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a nice F-style mandolin that I used to play more in college. I don't do as much anymore, but yeah, that's. We took a picture of my Amanda, who's the one that handles all the photography for the business because I can't take a photo to save my life. She took a picture off the front of the mandolin. That's the label.
Okay. That's it's very creative, and I'll tell you what, this is a very clean. I mean, obviously it's clear, but very clean tasting beer too.
Thank you. It's
really
pre-prohibition style, so we tried to source some local ingredients, which was pre-prohibition kind of the thing for it. So we used hops from Lance Shaner, who owns Omega Yeast Labs. He also owns a small hop farm, family hop farm. So we used his hops, and it's got a little bit of corn in it. Pretty straightforward, but it is around 25 to gotta think back. I think it's like 25 or 28 IBUs. So it's a little hop forward for a lager, but that was pre-prohibition style, and it's been a big hit for us.
So is that the defining characteristic, the slightly more hop forward and less, malty?
Yeah, so pale lager is definitely, like that hop forward is part of it, but a lot of it was pre-prohibition. They had to source local ingredients to make beer, so that was also a very big part of it. So
it's the local aspect of it as well. So, okay, all right. Yeah, so I've not made a pre-prohibition one myself, so... Yeah,
cool. Yeah, we tried to combine a couple different things with that. So,
what was it? What yeast did you use? Something from Omega?
With that one, we used 3470, which is Weinstefan, which is a German. So it's a dry yeast strain, right? Saf Lager 3470, but that's Weinstefan's German lager strain. So part of the pre-prohibition movement was all Germans that came over and were brewing a lot of Germans. So we kind of wanted to use that as well as part of that beer. So we used Weinstefan strain on that one.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you.
I recently brewed a cream ale using corn. It was the first time I've ever used corn as a mash addition. So the corn flavor does stand out to me quite nicely in this, and it's a nice addition.
Right. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a cool one. So Hillbilly Haiku, that's a Guy Clark lyric where he goes through all of his he's talking about Towns Van Zandt singing and writing, like sitting at the edge of a bar writing his hillbilly haikus, and that's where I came up with that name. Was from Towns Van Zandt, Guy Clark.
So this, I mean, so if unless I miss my guess, that has some bluegrass roots in there as well, or
folk Americana.
folk Americana. Okay, all right, yeah.
Like singer songwriter. Towns
Sure,
Van Zandt, those guys weren't bluegrass guys, but they were singer songwriters from the folk era. That
Okay.
Is that a common naming convention for Workforce beers? Is there music references?
A lot of them.
Okay.
I keep on my phone. I have like you got the notes function on your phone.
Sure.
I always like write down beer names, and I always try to make them kind of a story behind them and part of my life and like what's going on. And most people don't know all the names behind our beers, but they usually have a reference to like what we're doing and what's going on. We just don't pick a name randomly usually, so we try to make it a story, but don't tell everyone. So like we we keep it a little ominous, I guess. Like you don't you know, if you don't you don't.
If you have to ask, you don't know.
Yeah, well, that is very true.
Yeah, it's cool.
I got to admit, about years, maybe 2 years now, when you guys did that Reuben Charisse, I love that. Both of those beers, they were really good.
Right, West Coast, East
I
Coast. We did that for
exactly.
When Melvin was going to play. As soon as we locked Melvin in, Melvin Seals was the organist for the Jerry Garcia band. We got him to play our tap room, which was cool. I mean, it was like a lifelong dream to have like Melvin Seals play my tap room, and. So as soon as we got it all confirmed, I was like, we're rolling these freaking beers out. Like, I've had this concept. Let's do it. And it was pretty cool. So Reuben and Charisse is a song that JGB did really well. And so we did West Coast Reuben, East Coast Charisse, and it was a great beer. We get more people like Charisse, I think, than Reuben. We've been getting a lot of requests to bring back Charisse. So that might be
at the same time. You can't have one of them. You have like when I'm at the tap room, I'm gonna have one of each time I'm there. I mean, I'm a music junkie too, and I got to admit, I think the last time I was at a decent sized concert was at your tap room.
Which one was that?
Special C, my buddy's birthday.
Yeah,
my buddy's 11th birthday.
So
I got a friend.
Oh man, it's tough. This whole COVID thing sucks. It is what it is, right?
Oh yeah,
it is. April lined up Alfonso Panicelli to play, who's a swing guitar jazz guy out of Chicago. He's world renowned, but out of Chicago. We had him lined up to play the end of April. So we had the deposit down. He's working with us on it. We're going to push the date back, but. That hurt. To have Alfonso Panicelli play our tap room would have been incredible. And
awesome.
For sure.
Here we are. So, this is what it is.
So with the whole the stuff that's been released recently, are you guys going to be able to expand your little outside area to have people sit outside, or are you going to have food trucks or something? How's it working for you? Because I know my friends that own bars and I know what they're doing, and I just saw what Hailstorm just released today, where they were working on doing a beer garden next to their building. Anyway,
totally.
I'm just kind of curious. Are you guys going to start moving stuff off to the side with the garage doors, or having tables,
So Plainfield's been awesome with us. They've really worked hard at this whole shutdown and trying to help with small business, but they're handcuffed too, right? There's state regulations.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast? I don't know. Is that okay?
Fuck yeah.
I swear a lot.
Don't worry
so.
about
it. So Plainfield actually, one of the village administrators came by today, great guy, and he said that they're willing to work with us and expand our outdoor area. But here's my personal take, right? So we had 17 employees that we had to furlough, which sucks. It's brutal. We've got 3 back. So I'm really nervous, and I think every small business owner is, of bringing them off unemployment, which some of them, it took 3-4 weeks to get on unemployment.
Yeah.
To try to do this outdoor area shit, which isn't going to make. There's two sides to it, especially for us. We could either try to do it and they make a little bit of money on tips and their wages, and the spikes go back up or whatever's going to happen. We don't know. And they have to go back into unemployment and they're at the back of the line. And that's the last thing I want anyone to be in, is the back of the line, right? So
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I totally
so
get
we're
that.
really watching it closely, going, all right, we want our employees to be safe. We want our patrons to be safe. We want to not take them off unemployment to a week later go, oops, we fucked up, go back to unemployment.
Right.
They're at the end of the line.
Right.
They got to wait another month to get a check. So it's like, fuck, what do you do? So we're watching everything closely. So my response back to the village was, we're going to wait another week or two. I'll let some other businesses open up. And I hope that, we're fortunate enough where we're still doing curbside. We're still getting some good revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And if some people can't do that or can do some curbside or do an outdoor patio, I'd rather let some local businesses kind of get their feet back on the ground. We'll watch for it all. And maybe in 2-3 weeks or 2 weeks, every week, every day is a reassessment, really.
Right.
Every day we wake up, we go, what today? So we're hoping, we'll watch it. But what I'm also worried about is that if as Workforce, we had a lot of big outdoor parties already. If I said and put out on Facebook, hey, let's do this. We're back. We'd have 500 people at our door tomorrow. That'd be a shit. What are you going to do?
Yeah, turn people away, and that's no
exactly.
good.
It's even worse. Everyone's waiting. Families there, their dogs, everyone is ready, and you're like, "Oh my god, we're not ready for this."
Yeah.
So we totally get. We want restaurants to start reopening and people to get back into a norm.
Mm-hmm.
But with our model, it could be dangerous if we just flipped a switch, and that's not what we want to do.
Right.
Well, especially considering for those of our audience or people that watch this video and don't know your what you guys do, you have your brewery side, but you also have your homebrew shop side. And that's how Jason and I were introduced to you. So I mean, you basically have two businesses that could draw two different sets of clientele. So you got to be careful about how you do that. So
it's a big point for Amanda and I that we respect our staff. We treat all of our staff like family. Like literally they're part of our family. So we've talked to all of them of, do you feel the ones that are back now, do you feel comfortable doing this, this, and this? And if they say no, we respect that. And so if they don't feel comfortable trying to do like an outdoor seating patio, I get it. I don't want to put them in a spot where you have to do this, otherwise your job's in jeopardy. No, that's stupid. So we want to make sure everyone feels comfortable at their workplace, and that's just what we want. We just want people to, we just want everyone to be comfortable and safe in their workplace. So
and hats off to you for that, really.
Thank you.
If you don't mind me asking, how is the ingredient side of the business been in line with this whole thing?
The ingredient side?
Yeah.
The homebrew shop side,
the homebrew shop side.
It's rough.
Really? Okay.
So we're still getting. We've still had a good opportunity to get raw material in, but where we used to have a company of 17 people, it's now myself, Amanda, and our 3 employees. And we have a 2-year-old, so Amanda almost every day is with Mabel, right? So really, it's 3 employees and me. One's helping me on the brewing side. One is helping me on the draft side. So Angela and myself are on the homebrew shop side. We can't even package stuff fast enough. It's an awesome problem. Not complaining. but people are ordering stuff so fast we can't restock the shelves or package stuff down. We get a lot of 50-pound bags, then we pack it down into 1-pound bags, 10-pound bags, whatever. So we're having an issue with our shelves are being depleted,
and you can't recover fast enough
for a week or two just to literally package malt. So that's been a huge issue for us, trying to figure that out. So the supply chain side, most companies are still shipping and pretty good. Where it used to take me like 3 to 4 days to get a wholesale order in, now it's taking me about 2 weeks. So there's a delay there. Yeast has been kind of fluctuating where we'll place yeast orders, but yeast companies are running at 50, 60, 70%. So like half of my orders filled. It's a week, it's just we're not angry at all. It's just we're just trying to figure out how to help each other and like what's the new norm and what's new shipping times, so that's been tough. But we have a pretty good stock on kits we've been ordering a lot of like prepackaged kits from Brewers Best and stuff like that. That's helped. But our own homebrew Chicago Brewworks kits, it's been brutal. Like we can't, I need like 3 people full time just to make kits for us, and we can't do it.
No, I totally get it. And this right when you were mentioning that, I just had another question that just popped into my head. Do you feel like there's been an influx of brand new brewers that just kind of have found a lot of time on their hands and have been like, oh, I think making my own beer sounds like a great idea, and I've got all this time. Do you find those people that have found their way into the shop?
So, yes and no, 2-sided answer. So I opened in 2012. Probably 2012, 13, and 14, we were selling a ton of new equipment kits. Like people were getting into the industry. They really were going through it. We're still not back to those days where people are really getting into it, but I would say we're probably at 50% of what it used to be. So we are getting some new people that are definitely starting to brew, learn how to brew, but it's not like it used to be. But it's good to see people start a hobby again. That I think so many people got away from the industry or the hobby because so many breweries are opening up that they didn't brew as much.
Yeah, that is true.
Come back a little bit. What I have, the majority of what we see is people that were brewers, home brewers, 4 or 5 years ago that had all grains set up and all this stuff, kind of set it aside because all these new beers are coming out. They're just drinking regular beer.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're like, I got all my stuff. We're getting back into brewing. So our demand for all a lot of grain and 50-pound sacks and all that is going through the roof because people are getting back into it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You have all the equipment. Now you just found a bunch of time on your hands, and that's one thing you can do. And just to bring that, this is a horrible segue, but I'm going to do it anyways. Partially that was part of how this twice a week webcast came along. Is once the quarantine happened, my work sent me home, and I've been working out of the house since then. George as well. And we thought, just what's one thing we could do differently during the quarantine that we are not doing right now. And George called me one evening and he said, we have our regular podcast, A Nice Place to Brew. Let's make this a twice a week webcast. We'll invite people on. We'll have conversations like we're having right now, and and we'll also kind of build on the home brewing centered topics that we've been covering for a very long time. So I feel like everybody out there has their own version of that. Like there's something big that they were not doing before the quarantine that I think they found themselves in now, and I think that colors it nicely.
Right. Yeah. No, people are definitely excited to get back into the brewing swing of things. So I hope it kind of stays that way because that's where a lot of creativity comes from. Like, as a professional, it's awesome to always be brewing these big batches, but I love when home brewers come in with bottles of like crazy different beers they're brewing and let us try them. And like, you know, I've been brewing for 15, 16 years now.
Oh,
and,
wow.
So that's like a big thing. Like, you know, I miss home brewing myself. And so it's always nice to vicariously live through home brewers because that's my roots of like trying all these cool beers, you know, that people bring in. So that's awesome. Glad to see
Well,
it
and that's how we were, like I said, that's how we were introduced into your shop. We did our, you know, the traditional extract brews that everybody starts out with, and then Jason and I looked at it and said, I think we can do this all grain thing. And we came in and asked you specifically a slew of extremely stupid questions and, and got some equipment and got started. So, and you said one thing that I will never forget. And I have brought up many times on the show, Jason. I think you might know where I'm going with this. And you probably don't remember this at all.
Oh, God, I hope it was okay.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You know, we were so not used to what we need to do by way of sanitation and things like that. We just knew it was super important. And so I was worried about it. Like, what do I have to do? What do I have to worry about in the mash when it comes to sanitation and everything? And you said, and I will never forget this, you could throw a boot in the mash and it'll be perfectly fine. And that's when I knew that I asked a stupid question and you were gracious enough to answer it.
That's probably the least stupid question I've ever been asked. I've been asked a lot worse. But, you know, I think home brewing, you know, it's one of those things you got to be sanitary, right? And kitchen clean is always like the best word to use. Like if you're kitchen clean type of, you know, you got to just be clean, right?
Right.
Beer is very forgiving as a, you know, a process to infection really happens, I guess is what I'm saying, from multiple batches of bad process, right? So if you're not clean all the time, you're doing a bunch of stupid shit, you're going to infect your shit and it's going to work its way down the line and all your stuff is ruined. But as long as you're really clean and sanitize at the right steps and maintain that standard of cleanliness, you're good. You know, yeast doesn't want to be infected. It wants to produce clean stuff. We get a lot of people who worry pre-boil of sanitizing too much. And I'm like, that's why you boil it. You boil it to sanitize it. So anything post-boil is what's like you got to be medical grade for, you know. Mm-hmm. But beforehand, with, you know, God, imagine all the bacteria that's all over grain and malt. That's why it's boiled. So, well, I'm glad you didn't throw a boot though.
Brando, you ever had your problem when you're trying to break up maize and you have bugs coming out of it and you're like, oh no, because we've had that problem a couple times too. And like you're in the back like, oh no, what are we going to do here? So,
yep, we've thrown a lot of bags of grain in the dumpster. So Weevils is the worst issue. They come around August or September, and we've got bags of grain straight off the truck. You open them up and they got Weevils. It's an industry thing. It sucks, and you got to contact your supplier and try to get credit and all that shit.
How does that happen? I've never had that come up since I've been home brewing, but I've spoken with club members that have talked about that they open up a sack of grain and magically grain Weevils are there. How does that come to be? Are there certain things to look out for?
Yeah, so keeping grain cool is the key. And so what happens is around September, like late August, early September, they have like a 3 to 4 week gestation period. So I'm going to freak a lot of people out in this podcast probably.
Sure.
Great people,
do it.
The eggs are in everything. They're everywhere, right?
Okay.
So all these huge suppliers, they all have the issue. It's like the unspoken issue, right? Nobody wants to talk about it, but it's a thing. So when the warehouses get hot at the end of August, especially into September, the gestation period, the eggs hatch, the weevils come out, right? So you'll start to see them. If you're using a lot of fresh malt, it shouldn't be a problem because they should come to fruition. But a lot of times, sometimes you'll get malt from a supplier that's been sitting in their warehouse for 45 days, and it's a 3-week window of gestation. By the time it sits on a truck coming to your loading dock at 95, 100 degrees, guess what happens? Those shits hatch. So it may have not. They may have not noticed it when they leave their warehouse, but by the time it gets to your door, guess what? You open the bag and you're like, what the hell is this? So that's what happens.
So when you get a bag of grain, do you open it in like a quarantine or something so you don't accidentally cross-contaminate that way? Or
most of them you can control it pretty quick. There's usually a source bag, right? There's usually something that is the worst, and that's the one. Yeah, go straight to the dumpster. You're done with it, type of thing. So it's part of what you do in the industry. We've gotten boxes from our homebrew suppliers of kettles, and I've cut open the box of the kettle and opened those up and seen weevils because they live in cardboard. They live in anything fibrous and paperish and dusty, and they thrive in it.
Okay.
It's like, how the hell are there weevils in a stainless steel kettle in a box? But it's part of the business. You got to search for it.
Wow.
As soon as you find that shit, you got to work towards it and dispose of it. So,
dang, yeah.
One of the things we talked about a couple weeks ago was kind of a life cycle of buying grain. Do you find, is a suggestion to homebrewers out there, is there kind of like a timetable that becomes like a law of diminishing returns, or is there some recommended storage processes that people can follow and grain can last longer?
So especially, all right, so there's multiple things here. So like base malt, definitely within the year, within about a year.
1 year. Okay. Got it.
Right. You want uncrushed, by the way.
Right.
You're good. You're okay. 6 months is ideal. 1 year, totally fine. Once you crush it, give it a 30-day window. You kind of want to use it within the 30 days. Specialty malt, especially for home brewers, if you're just using, quarter pound of this, half pound of that, whatever. If it's uncrushed, you've probably got, really 2 years or so. You're okay. Once you crush anything, you're kind of exposing it, right? So as long, and I also should say that that's within dry, good, cool conditions. If it's hot, humid, whatever, your window of staying good drastically decreases.
Right.
So your optimum conditions, it's dry, cool air, it's sealed. You can go two years, even with like caramel malts, even you can go 2.5 years, no problem. You shouldn't have any issue with any of that. But once you crush it, then you want to use it sooner.
30 days for crushed?
Right.
30 days. Okay,
so
that makes sense.
For the specialty ones, is that because it goes through a longer malting and roasting process that it can last longer? Like it has less moisture, or
yeah, part of that, and it's already, especially with caramel malts, they already go through that kind of that Maillard reaction process and oxidation, right? And so you're not as much worried about it. And it's also a smaller ratio in your grist, where base malt, where you're really getting, so it has to do more with, you're trying to extract those healthy enzymes to convert your starch into sugar. So you want that stuff to be better. Whereas the caramel malts, you literally don't need any enzymes for caramel malts. You can just steep caramel malt, to pull out what you need out of it. But you also don't want it to just be old and ragged kind of a thing.
Right.
You could probably use caramel malt that's 5 years old. If you gave me a beer that had, like a home brew with a half a pound of caramel malt that was 6 months old versus 5 years old that you steeped, I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference in beer, right? Because you're not looking for that enzymatic conversion of your starch to sugar of your base malt. So base malt is important with keeping it fresh.
Well, we definitely, Jason, have done the whole steep the specialty grains. Remember that one that wasn't dark enough for Jason? So yeah. We had one. We went through a mash and it came out, and it wasn't dark enough for Jason. So we steeped some chocolate malt in there.
Listen, the name of the competition was Big and Dark, and I refused to lose the competition because it wasn't dark enough. That was my logic.
I'll give you credit on that one. How'd you place in that one, Jason? How about that?
Hey, well, you learn stuff along the way.
And we're also pretty sure that all those JBG contests are rigged anyway. So,
Who keeps winning, Joel or somebody, or
probably Joel? Yeah.
Yeah, Joel probably won that one. Yeah, he probably did. Although I didn't win this year, so about that, I know it wasn't rigged. I won this year.
We really want to stir up JBG controversy here on the webcast, really?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yes, we do.
we do. Okay. Paulie and I talk with these people on a regular basis.
Yeah,
this is going to come back around.
I'm 1,000 miles away. Come at me.
But I'm not. Don't forget that.
Hey,
But
Joel,
the funny thing is,
Joel knows what he's doing. So,
yes, he does.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Nah.
And honestly, give credit where it's due. Joel has had a tremendous impact over our still evolving knowledge of home brewing. So we're very, very grateful.
Yeah.
He's a guy. He knows what he's doing.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you guys opened for business in 2012. And I'm surprised I don't know this. What came first, the ingredient store or the brewery?
Oh, the ingredient store, yeah. So Chicago Brew Works, we incorporated actually October 2011, officially opened in 2012. It's a long story. We got shut down by the county and reopened and all. Yeah, it's a very long story. But so we moved to our current place in 2013, and we formed the brewery side in 2014. So Werk Force has been around since 2014.
Right on. And you, the second location opened up, was it 2017 or 2018?
Oh God, I have no idea. No.
Yeah.
I'm testing my own memory partially.
Yeah. I would probably 2018. I think I signed the lease. It took us a year of build out. I built so I'm cheap and don't like, didn't have any. Well, let me back up. I'm broke and cheap, so to build out, I did all the build out because I couldn't afford to hire all these people. So I think I started in 2017. I think we opened our doors in 2018, 20. So yeah.
And when you say the second location, you mean that's when the brewery split from the ingredient store, right?
Right. That's when the new tap room and everything. We put the 10 brew house in. So.
Yeah,
it really is an awesome new space. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
hats off to you.
I haven't had a chance to see it yet. Yeah.
I love your new space. I will say that so heartily.
Yeah, we but all the wood we used was from reclaimed pallets because trying not to buy a lot of stuff. All the lighting I built, I never welded a day in my life, and I watched some YouTube videos and bought a welder at Harbor Freight, welded all the lighting fixtures. My buddy, actually, Omar, I don't know if Omar is watching this tonight, but Omar Rodriguez, he walked in as I was welding it. He's a professional welder. He just started laughing. It was like, you're fucking all this up. So he gave me like a 5-minute schooling video on how to weld right. So that helped put all the light fixtures together.
Did you commit any big safety no-nos before he stepped in?
I'm sure I did.
Okay. That's the biggest thing you got to worry about. You're working with fire,
But my uncle loaned me a scaffolding. I mean, it was all family based. My uncle owns an HVAC company. He put all the stuff in, and yeah, it was just we worked our asses off. My dad helped me. We were up on scaffolding, putting all the drywall in and everything. I did at the very end. I got so sick of drywalling. I did hire a crew to come in to like help me mud and paste and finish hanging some drywall because I was done after a year of building.
Worst, right?
Year. Oh my gosh.
I don't mind drywall, but what took me like 3 weeks to do, they did in like 4 hours, and I was like, God,
right, yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, they helped out, but
seemingly on every webcast we end up talking about MacGyver, and I think that's relevant for that story you just told too, because I do feel like a huge part of home brewing is just being able to adapt and fix whatever position you find yourself in, and you inevitably end up having to build new things, recreate things, and oftentimes on the fly, sometimes in the middle of a brew day. So I feel like your muscles get flexed as far as building those things, quote unquote MacGyver style.
Yeah.
I used to always joke with Amanda that I'm the worst salesman in the world, because especially as a homebrew shop owner, everyone used to come in and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm looking at buying this," and I'd be like, you don't need to buy it from me. Go to Menards and we can get you this part. You make it yourself.
And she's like,
"Thank you, Brando. I do the same thing. Oh, thank you. I do the same thing."
I you don't need to buy it from us. You can do this. You sell this stuff. You gotta sell it. I was like, oh, so bad. So yes, I can relate to MacGyver and everything, and even with the brewery, when I did all the process piping and all that stuff ourselves. Like I had to get really, really good at sweat soldering copper. That was the thing. I've been able to sweat solder copper since I was a teenager, just because I kind of learned how to do it. But I had to get really good at it.
So Paulie being the pipe fitter, I'm going to ask this question to you. Can you explain what that means?
What, soldering pipe?
Yeah.
Sweat soldering copper. Yeah.
It's you know what? It really is a art. Anybody can sand and flux and heat. Hopefully you don't overheat, and you can solder. But to make it look good, hopefully it's not, like if it's something that's not going to be wrapped in insulation, that is a real art. Because you're doing a vertical solder joint. It comes running down. Someone like me is going to come in and be like, "Really? I do the same thing, but really it's exposed." I mean, he's right. It really is like anybody can you can figure out how to solder.
Right.
Just figure out how to solder, but to do it, make it look good, and then to not leak on top of that.
Right.
That's experience. That's all it is doing it over and over again.
So don't get me wrong. We hired a pipe fitter to do all our plumbing, and we hired another pipe fitter to do all our steam piping. But there's especially when you set up a brew house, you tell the guys how to lay everything out. They're done off the job and they're gone. And then I was like, "Oh fuck! I needed this here and this there. Shit!" And there was a lot of me cutting and redoing stuff, because as a brewery owner, you always have a plan and you work on your plan and everything looks great. And then you start using it, you're like, "Oh fuck, I should have put this there and this here." And so, instead of calling a bunch of guys back to redo shit, I just cut it.
They're twice extra to do that, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, any home brewer or pro brewer is nodding their head along with that. They're like,
no question.
Best laid plans.
You start to realize, how things, you always want to make something better, right? That's how I've always operated. Like, oh, this worked, but guess what? I could do it better and more efficient this way. And that's where we try to. That's where I learned how to sweat copper. So.
Sweat copper. All right, I learned something new tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, Jason, if you want, I'll give you a tutorial one day when we do that brew day in my backyard. I'll teach
Sure,
you some.
sure. I
This
got
is
I
gonna
got
be quite the
plenty to
day.
learn. Bring it on.
I will teach you how to do it.
You're gonna do
Because then
it. Be like, I want to hire a professional to ever do this because this sucks.
Oh, I totally get that.
Paulie comes in and you're like, Paulie's like, I'll do this in 5 minutes, which would take me like an hour. You know,
Right. Yeah.
3 takes of nap gas, like a
Right.
whole roll of solder. Paulie's like, yeah, I do this in like 3 seconds.
Yep.
All right.
That's how
This
it
took this took me 3 weeks to do. Well, what'd you spend your time on?
Oh, don't I know it?
Oh my God, that makes so much sense. To be honest, really, you've been here for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being an apprentice, and we were building the Target, and we were doing huge 10 and 12-inch cast iron, and that's a dying art in the plumbing trade right now. And because it's old technology, but still, like, most of Chicago still uses it on the commercial side.
Yeah, all
And I
Chicago
remember-
cast iron.
Well, if it's commercial, yes. If it's residential, 3 stories or less, you could do it in plastic. But if you have a store on the bottom, that's all cast iron and copper after that. So there's different parts of it. But yeah, to be able to actually pack oakum around there, which I always, me being the pothead that I am, I always laughed about this. And like when you're making cast iron and you're actually putting it together, it's called packing a joint and pouring a joint. I come home from work, I packed like 50 joints today and poured those at the same time. What do you got?
And if you want a lesson on rolling joints, I'll put the link in the comments for the past episode of A Nice Place to Brew, where Paulie hosts a tutorial.
He swears it was tobacco, but you know,
Nobody's convinced.
nobody's convinced.
So check out the comments below.
Yeah, right.
So Brando, I gotta ask the question is, we and I like to ask this to different pros to get their take on where things are going. What do you think is like kind of the next innovation, next thing you see coming down, for beer and beer styles and brewing and such?
I don't know.
Okay.
Solid
answer.
Fair response.
So I never, I was a guy who was like, when Hazy's really came out and hit hard, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Milkshakes, beer. That'll never be. I don't know. My biggest thought process is that lagers are going to make a comeback. I think a lot of people are getting hopped out. You look at the craft brewing world, right? And the craft beer drinkers. And really, craft beer drinkers are still such a small percentage of the overall population of the world, right? And what most people, when they drink beer, the biggest percentage is of lager. So
Right.
I don't know that craft lager necessarily is going to be the big blow up, but I think that just more people are changing taste buds to enjoy good quality lagers.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if I know for Werk Force, right before the shutdown, which sucks, but it is what it is. We just bought a bunch of slow pour Czech faucets from Czech Republic. So we were going to do a brand new set of 5 faucets with all new slow pour lagers. So the Werk Force Lager House is coming to fruition a little later than expected, but we have some, we kind of felt that more and more people are going to want like lower alcohol lager, 4.5%, 5% lagers. It was a big thing for us when we were still open, that people bought that. So that's kind of my feeling, but I don't know, man. People are throwing gummy bears and everything in beers. We're doing some pretty out there stuff too.
Well, yeah.
Weird,
Well,
it's weird.
Yeah, you say that. So let me change the question a little bit. Like, what are you guys experimenting with as like kind of, the next thing for you? If you want to say, I don't know if you.
No, totally.
Yeah.
So we actually just dry hopped one of our milkshake IPAs today. I brew a few of those beers because they are fun to brew, but they're not our core, right? So certain breweries rely on those as being core beers. We have fun experimenting with that stuff, but what I really, really, really enjoy is wilds, sours, wood, like barrel-aged beer, the art of blending. That's my thing. They don't sell like milkshake or IPAs or any of these other things.
Right.
So it's a weird conundrum that you are in as a brewery owner, producing a few things to help pay the bills so that I can focus on my cool ship beers, my, all my barrel stock and stuff like that. So you will see, we actually today, this is hot info, released today.
All right.
Exclusively right here.
Exclusive. So Jake Leduc's back with us, and him and I, we sat through today and tasted a bunch of barrel stock, and also him and Jake Schoof had bottled up a raw ale, which is a no-boil strawberry rhubarb raw ale that is delicious. It is not a fruit beer. So if somebody hears strawberry rhubarb, we're actually kind of internally right now talking about this. It's very light in the strawberry rhubarb, and we were going for this like more delicate style beer. But what's weird is today's culture wants diabetes, like literally.
Right. Yeah.
So if we put strawberry rhubarb on the label, we're going to get fucking slammed when people are like, "I don't taste any strawberry or rhubarb." And it's like, dude, it's a delicate beer. So we're trying to figure out how to phrase the beer right. Of how it's a beautiful beer. It's amazing.
Right.
But if I put strawberry rhubarb on the label, I get slammed,
Right. I find the word infused helps with that. Like when you talk about like seltzer water and things, it's like strawberry infused water. It's like just a little hint of it,
But it wasn't
maybe I don't know.
We get arrested on a bunch of strawberry and rhubarb. Like, how do Jesus Christ, how do I do it,
Was it a secondary edition where that came in?
What's that?
Was it a secondary edition where that came in?
That was secondary, yeah.
Secondary, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we also have a mixed culture beer that has PDO, lacto, whole blend of Brett strains that's gorgeous too. And then what's the last one? Trying to think of. We tasted today Humongous Chungus, which is a barrel aged big chungus, which is coconut, vanilla, cacao nib, all that stuff. So
I have to
we got
ask:
a bunch of
is that a musically influenced name? Humongous Chungus?
No, it's not. So do you know about Chungus?
No, I don't.
You know?
No.
Yeah.
Right? So Chungus is it was a Reddit like meme about a fat Bugs Bunny, and they came up with a fake thing. This was like 1 or 2 years ago about GameStop. They came up with Big Chungus as a video game that was fake, and all these soccer moms showed up for Black Friday to buy Big Chungus. And it didn't exist, and all the GameStop employees were like, "We have no idea what you're fucking talking about."
I love that story so much. I've never heard that.
Yeah, we're Chungus, then we did Big Chungus, which is the imperial version, and now our barrel aged version is Humongous Chungus.
Okay. So if we can
out shortly.
if we can rewind for just a second, so the raw ale thing, can you dwell on that a little bit? Like, so you said that's no boil.
Yep, take it to 180. We hold it for about a half hour to sanitize it. Pasteurize it.
Okay.
And cool it down, and that's it. No boil.
Okay, so do you do a standard mash in on that,
Yep.
or okay, and then you bring it up to 180?
Yep.
Okay.
And a lot of wheat and pills, and then we transfer it after 180. We chill it down like a normal beer, transfer it in,
Right.
and then it was pitched with yeast and a little bit of Brett.
And a little bit of Brett. Okay, so is it more of a, if you had to equate it to a regular style, is it more of like a wheat beer style, like a German wheat? Or...
No, it's
No.
more of like a farmhouse. It's more of a farmhouse ale with a little bit of Brett. You know, like
Okay.
it's got a little bit of that funk on the back end, but
Sure.
not funky. Like you know, you wouldn't be like, whoa. You know, it's got just a touch of Brett, just a little bit of tartness, but not from lacto or PDO. It's more of a Brett, you know, an acid produced from Brett, and
Right.
just clean. You know, it's delicious. It's so refreshing. It's really good.
Okay.
So,
All right. Yeah, I
can't wait.
never. Yeah. So how do you do? So you say you bring it up to 180 and you let it sit there for a little bit. How do you do hop additions in that?
That's all Whirlpool hopped. That's that. No extra. You're not boiling anything, so there's no extra hops. Really, you're just using the hops more of a antimicrobial aspect.
Okay.
Than, you know,
So
we're
you
not
still
looking-
get that preservative aspect
Correct.
in the with just doing the Whirlpool and everything.
Yep.
What
Okay.
about
We've-
bittering
Alright.
hops?
That's a lot of our kettle sours too. We've done a lot of no boil kettle sours too. And we don't get any DMS through it. You know, we use a lot of highly refined malts like Avantgarde or Wireman are really good. And yeah, it's been a cool project to be working with. It's nerve wracking because you know you think about you kind of have to throw everything out that you know about brewing, and to do this
Right.
process.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Well, on that note, what do you do for a bittering hop addition?
There's no bittering hop addition.
No bittering hop, all Whirlpool. My
Correct.
gosh.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're not going to have a no boil IPA, I guess.
No, well, you could. Most of our
Yeah.
hazies, actually, we don't do any bittering hop additions for any of our hazies, and most of them will brew. You know, we'll still boil it for an hour on our hazies, but then we'll cool it down to 180, throw in our hops at that, and that's it. There's no boil additions at all for any of those.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I might have to experiment with this a little bit. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
This whole no
need-
boil.
if you're going for juice, no need to get IBUs. You know.
Right. Yeah. Maybe do no boil and then no chill on top of that. And, you know,
There you
go.
just,
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Let's try that. That would be fun. to try. Actually, now you think of that, I'm like, because I've just started hearing about the snow boil, and I've done a little bit of research on it. And you know, me being the old schooler, I guess old schooler, but I get, you know, it's like you're not boiling anything, really. What's going on?
right. Yeah.
Kind of.
That's kind of where my head was at too.
Where's the sterilization going with this?
So we've done a lot of experimentation. So DMS is definitely a thing, right? We know it's a thing, but especially in mixed culture and sour beer, we feel that, and I have no scientific backing of this, but we feel that the bugs and like some of that Brett breaks down whatever it is producing that DMS or, you know, the precursors or whatever, that we don't get it in the final product. And especially in kettle sours too, we just don't get the DMS. But if I was to do a traditional Pilsner, you know,
Right.
and not boil it, it'd be a DMS bomb. So there's
Right.
something that has to do with that bacteria that is not letting it come through at the final stage.
Where's a microbiologist when we need one?
I know. And I don't even know that there's really the science behind it yet. You know, it's weird that beer's been around forever, but there's still, everyone's learning new stuff all the time. So it's crazy. Like Kvike yeast, like it's crazy. If we fermented at 95, there's no fusels. Like what the hell is going on here?
That was from the Big Brew Day recipe this year. It was using that Quebec yeast that ferments like 80 to 100 degrees. It's crazy.
Yeah, so we use it. We've run a bunch of our strains. One Bulletproof Tiger, which you just released, that was on generation like 45. It's crazy. We love it. We just restarted
5 generations. My God.
Yeah. So we just restarted it, and today we did Romulan cotton candy, and that's coming back out. That's fermenting at 95 degrees right now, and we love it. I absolutely love that yeast.
Yeah, so I was curious about that, and I'd be curious to follow up with some of the AHA people. They did that Kveik yeast as their big brew day, and I wonder because it has to ferment at such a high temperature, if that was a challenge for any of the home brewers that were looking to make it, because you can't just sit that in your guest room. He says with beer behind him in his guest room and achieve those temperatures, so you gotta figure that without like glycol or a fermentation chamber or something like that, that might be difficult.
So the key is knocking out at that temperature. So our glycol only cools. We, even as professional brewers, don't have an ability to raise temps. Like I can only cool, right?
Yeah.
So we knock out into the fermenter at 95 to 100 degrees and then pitch our yeast. And the vigorous fermentation from that Kveik yeast literally keeps it at that temp. And it's done in like 48 hours. So even as a home brewer, as long as you knock out at 95 degrees, 97 degrees, you're good.
And so for those who don't know, knockout is when you're cooling, you stop at that temperature, and that's your knockout temperature of where you stopped your cooling at. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right.
So that's it. That's all you need to do.
Okay.
2 to 3 days later, it's done.
And this is my next project too, because I did not get to brew on Big Brew Day this year, and I still have the ingredients here at the house. So next brew day is already written. So I got a lot to learn on this one. I've never used these types of ingredients before, and I've never used pumps or a whirlpool. So this is quite a brew day for me.
It's a great yeast to save and harvest too. It's awesome. It's good.
Yeah, Jason just invested in a pump system for his kettle, and he's going to be able to do a true whirlpool this time around. So
that's the plan. That's the plan. Yep. Yeah. George keeps telling me, and most of the people that we've spoken to on this webcast have echoed this same comment. You will wonder how you ever got by for as long as you did without brewing with a pump.
Paul's like,
that you were manually just pouring water over new vessels and all that.
Does make things easier.
I totally get it.
This and that to get the gravity to go. For sure.
Oh man.
What else is in the fermenters right now?
Brando, I think that's to you.
Romulan cotton candies in the fermenter. Lone Ranger race car, which is pills. We'll be packaging that next weekend. Old Pile is back in it's a classic American light lager.
I love it.
We got a lot of Old Pile, and then I've got 2 hard seltzers that we've been dabbling with. So a ginger lime. And we're debating on the other flavor. I haven't mixed it yet. So got those. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, and Transcendental Rambler milkshake IPA. We've got that in the tank too. But it's small batch, kind of experimental. So we're
Okay.
So actually, you said the seltzers. Have you ever released a seltzer? Does it sell for you guys? Because I know a few people have tried them around us.
Yeah.
I just got any feedback. So how did it go for you? I mean, I'm totally against the Truly and the Claw and all that, but if this is what sells, you gotta do what you gotta do, and I get it. So
here's the down low. So we've released a seltzer in our tap room. It went over like crazy. The first time I ever brewed a seltzer, I've been against it. Same thing with hazies at first. I was like, no way. Then I brewed one, and I ate it, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. It tastes great. So we dabbled a little more in it. We're doing a Moscow Mule style seltzer. That's our next one, called No Regrets. And that's
No regret. Oh my
love it.
God, really?
So
Yeah.
Moscow Mule style, you're putting ginger in it, and you're doing
ginger and lime.
Ginger and lime. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
you have copper
yeah,
cups.
I haven't gone that far.
I need another beer. Hold
You
the
need
fort down.
Go ahead, Jason. You need copper cups, man.
That's the part. He knows. It's too expensive.
I mean, it's it's funny because like I said, I've seen people around the area doing it. Like I've seen it in the fermenters, and I never talked to them. And you're the first one I've talked to since. I was just kind of curious how it turned out, and people are buying it. That's awesome.
It tastes.
You got
it's
a whole new market out there for your place.
You
might be a
kind of look at each other, and you're like, I'm kind of angry. It tastes so good. Damn.
Oh God, yes. I can agree with that.
So I'm curious at the process. I mean, I've seen some recipes online and everything, but I know it's somewhat new. So what do you guys do to create the alcohol for it, and that you can then wrap seltzer water around it? So.
No, totally. So we ferment it just like a beer. It is a beer for us. We do corn sugar, so it's from malted corn. And then we do add a touch of hops to it to make sure it falls under beer's, lineage. Sure. And that's really it. We use we've done some with champagne yeast and some with turbo yeast. The champagne yeast works well, but it takes about 4 weeks to ferment out, so it takes a long time. Turbo yeast works a little bit better. We kind of go back and forth on what tastes better. We're still figuring it out. It's kind of new for us.
So what's the ratio of corn sugar? Because the one thing that kind of I can't. I'm with you. How you were. I can't really get behind it in my head, but eventually I'm going to have to experiment with it because that's who I am. So how much corn sugar or syrup do you put in so you don't end up with just extremely hot, alcohol forward thing?
Totally. Yeah, so what we shoot for, we don't use any corn syrup. We use just corn sugar, right? So we don't use any high fructose corn syrup or anything like that. But the corn sugar that we put in, we shoot for starting gravity right around 1048 to 1050. And after that ferments, it usually goes down to, basically zero. And we shoot to try to achieve 5.5 to 5.6. We found that that's a good spot where you don't get that heat, Right. And we also ferment it at around 66 degrees. So it's a little on the cooler side, which does adds some days on to fermentation, but we don't get any fusel anything out of that, which is good.
Right.
So a little bit cooler fermentation, not high gravity. It works out pretty well.
So for something like that, I definitely would, champagne yeast would have been my first place to go to. So the turbo yeast, would something like a US-05 work for that? Just a nice neutral yeast like that? Or
you could try. The only thing is US-05 needs some more nutrient, so I'd definitely add more nutrient.
Okay.
But champagne yeast, a lot of people are using champagne yeast. It's just which works really well to get down to that final gravity. It takes a long time. That's the biggest conundrum. It takes time.
And with something like that, I'm guessing like a glucoamylase or something that wouldn't help with that at all.
Not with that. No.
Not with that. Yeah.
It has more to do with nutrient deficiency of the starting, liquor, right? So your, wort is super high in nutrients, and we still add yeast nutrient typically to wort because we want to bump it up. But when you're just doing sugar and water, there's nothing there. So what we've started doing is staggering, kind of like what you do with mead, staggering our nutrient additions over 3 days. The start of the ferment, we found that helps a little bit too.
So on a homebrew scale, would adding yeast nutrient to a starter help with that?
No, it has to do with that base. I mean, you should always add nutrient to your starter. So let me back up.
Okay. Sure.
To that. But adding additional nutrient to the starter isn't going to help. Once you pitch, you should stagger that nutrient over 3 to 4 days of that primary ferment.
And you know what I just thought of is if you're doing a seltzer, you wouldn't want to do a starter with DME. You'd almost have to do a starter with corn sugar to maintain the flavor profile and everything.
I would advise actually doing a starter with seltzer.
I'm just wondering if that would be
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Just get a couple packets and maybe double pitch is what you're thinking?
Yep.
Okay. All right. All right. And Jason, looks like we have a question.
We do have a question here in the comments. So this is from Kevin. What's the single best piece of not required but helpful equipment a home brewer can buy to save time on brew day? Now, we just talked about a pump. And I guess there's an argument made for that, but that's certainly a more advanced piece of equipment.
The single best piece of equipment but not required?
Best piece of not required but helpful equipment.
Yep.
A slop sink.
You know what? That's a great answer.
That's a great answer.
I really, it really is. Because being that I don't have a utility sink, it is a giant pain in the ass. Like carrying the stuff to a whole different area where I have to.
Not required, but it will make your life a million times easier.
Yeah, I agree. I have one in my brew shed, and it is very helpful.
So when we live in a townhouse here, and
me too.
I put a dual slop sink in my garage when I was homebrewing a lot, and I didn't tell Amanda, but we I may or may have not drilled a hole through the wall, through the foundation into the basement. And I put my carboys and everything in the basement. And after my brew days, I'd run a hose through the foundation wall down in the basement and transfer the beer. And she came home one day and saw the hole. And I was like, it was already there.
What? Really? How about that?
I hate to ask a dumb question, but is that where all the excess water flows down into?
No, that was only wort that went down. The water is
only
in the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wait, you did a gravity system from from the first floor to the basement? You just ran a hose?
Correct.
That's fucking a MacGyver move if I ever heard one myself.
Yeah.
I've been around the block a few times.
Well, let's see if we can add to this beyond the slop sink. What else kind of fits that question? Single best piece of not required but helpful equipment a home brewer can buy to save time on brew day.
I have one.
High temp gloves.
High temp gloves. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Auto siphon.
Yeah, auto siphon.
Yeah.
Counterflow chiller.
Huh?
What?
Counterflow chiller.
Counterflow chiller?
Counterflow chiller.
Or plate chiller? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Truthfully, like getting a good burner, a good pot with a ball valve in it, and even if it's not a counterflow, like Paulie said, even if it's a standard immersion chiller, just having a burner, a pot, and like being able to just be mobile with that, like it'll speed your brew day up. That just convenience is the biggest thing that helps.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you don't have to focus on that, you can focus on those things that make your beer better. So it's less about, how lazy can I be? It's about having your attention being in the right place.
Yep.
Well said. Here's the follow-up question. What's the latest toy that people have given rave reviews to as far as homebrewing equipment?
And let's keep this to homebrewing toys.
Yeah.
Nice touch, George.
Probably one of the latest things that I've heard, which I've been using for a while and I really enjoyed them, and now that we've brought them into the store, the corny keg dry hoppers that are like stainless steel screens with like a screw top on them, and you can sanitize them, put your hops in, and drop them. They go through the top of a corny keg. Those things are awesome. So I get a lot of questions from home brewers all the time going, we've had your IPAs. It's so hoppy and aromatic. I'm doing your exact recipe, throwing the same hops in. I don't get that. So dry hopping under pressure definitely 100% increases your hop aromatics and flavor. So I was always a big fan of dry hopping in a keg. So we have these new stainless steel screens that you can drop your hops in and drop it into the corny keg. That makes a ton of difference to dry hop under pressure in a keg, rather than like in the carboy and then rack it out of carboy in a keg. You lose a lot of that flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the big innovations, the best toys to have to. I think that was the question, right? Did I go on too much tangent, right?
Yeah. No, you're good.
So, to do that and have that screen and be able to hop in it, drop it in your keg, purge your kegs, there's no oxygen, then rack that beer in on top of it, that's the best thing to do. And I think it's a really cool innovation.
And then you just leave it in there for the life of the beer in that keg?
You can. However, it does start to get grassy after a week or so.
Yeah.
So ideally is if you have two kegs to jump the keg to keg. I don't know if hopefully I don't know if everyone knows who's listening how to jump a keg to keg, but you can transfer a keg, keep that under pressure, take your next keg, sanitize it, purge it multiple times with CO2 so there's no oxygen in it, and you hook your liquid to liquid up and slowly transfer that beer into it off of the hops. So
using the CO2 pressure.
Using CO2 pressure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That way you keep all those aromatic. Yep.
Yeah,
And,
I've never done that before, but that does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do it all the time in the brewery from transferring tank to tank. It's the same premise doing it keg to keg. So, it's not it's easy to do. It preserves all those aromatics.
And what I've seen on the homebrew scale, I was gonna say what I've seen on the homebrew scale, it got going to keg to keg. A lot of times people use that and will put a filter in between when they want to filter the beer. That's how they'll do it, is put it in one liquid to liquid, and in between they put a filter and run it through that to get all the solids out.
Totally bright beer. Yeah.
Do you sell one of those at the shop?
We do. Yeah, we do have a filter kit. Yep.
Would you can I post a link to the shop?
You can. I'll have to look if I have any in stock.
Okay, all right.
It's a popular.
No, honestly, I feel like it's a great. I mean, I think you map that out really well. I'd love to invite the homebrewers out there to do exactly what you're describing.
Totally. So we do sell filters, and so I'll be very honest. We do sell them. We have a lot of people that ask for them. They buy them. I'm not the biggest fan on filtering. I like to really let things be gentle with my beer and settle out naturally, or we'll use a fining agent. You can use Biofine. We sell that at the shop, or there's a few different fining agents that we sell. I personally am more of a fan of letting time take a little longer to make it better. So we were supposed to release Lone Ranger Race Car this Saturday. We tried it this week. It's delicious, but it's still a little hazy, and I'm letting time filter it out. We sell the filters. Happy to sell a filter to anyone that wants to use it. But that's not my preferred route to go. So we do carry it, but I prefer people not to do that.
I think Jason was referring to the hop screen, though, weren't
you? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the hop screen. So, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Should have been clear about that.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, I think that's a great thing to talk about as far as what the what time does to just to homebrewed beers, because you are right. There is an evolution that takes place over time whether or not a beer is in a bottle or a keg. And I always find that interesting.
Right. Yeah. Especially with if you add any sort of a fining agent, there's a window that you need to let it work, to make it be the bright beer that you want. So
Right.
we, everything's different. Every beer is different. Every yeast strain is different. Just depends on, what you're shooting for.
Right.
Yeah. And that's where a good solid Vorloff recirculation can help too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even before you get into the keg.
Yep. In a vigorous boil with protein coagulation. I mean, there's so many steps to get to like where you need to be. But
Right.
Yeah, George and I have used isinglass to refine.
And Irish moss.
Irish moss, is still a regular for me in every recipe. So I totally get it.
Well, we say Irish moss, but it's Whirlflock. I know they add a few extra things in there, but is that a caplet or two of Whirlflock in a beer makes a big difference when you're at our scale.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh, cool.
All right. What else?
Trying to think.
Yeah.
Just throw some questions out.
Yeah, right?
Get them answered.
Yeah, we got a great start. Thank you, Kevin, for posting questions in the comments.
So let me ask this. As a new person starting out, what would you suggest? Maybe an extract kit, or would you suggest going into all grain or brew in a bag, or what would be kind of your go-to these days? Extract, okay?
Yeah. So
yeah.
If the question I always ask is, do you like to cook at home? And I could direct who needs an all grain kit or an extract kit just from that question. When people go, I love to cook and I create stuff from scratch all the time, and I'm like, boom, you can do all grain. I hate cooking. I'm like, well, you should probably do an extract kit. So extract kit has the best instructions, the cleanest. It's quick, easy. You can knock it out. That's kind of one of those things that we always try to point people in the right direction of, hey, this will get you into brewing. If you want to do more, we've got everything down the line. But if somebody wants to come through and really loves to cook and is into it, then all grain brewing isn't hard. It's the same as cooking, right? So that's kind of that route we go when that question is posed to us. But I prefer to see people all grain brew. I think it's a better product, at the end. People are happier with the results, but it depends on how good they are to do it, like following instructions and really getting down to it and maintaining that fermentation and then bottling and it's not hard to make beer, but if you don't care about it, it's going to suck, right?
Yes. It is a demanding mistress sometimes, but it's not difficult. It just takes a lot of attention to detail.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you started home brewing, this was long before the craft beer craze and the movement to home brewing. What was? Can you talk about that early appeal? Kind of what brought you in so early?
I was really excited to get Sammy Smiths, those bombers. Whew, that was my game. I love Patty Porter.
Patty Porter and the Odie Stout. Those are the two that. Right?
Oh wow!
And,
okay, me and Brando's Inner Hippie are coming out right now. How about that?
Please.
Red Hook was a big thing, like back in the day when I was starting. Like Red Hook, they're not even around; they're done. And
they're done. Okay.
Yeah, I bought a lot of Red Hook, a lot of Sammy Smiths, and we used to do a bunch of Dundee's, Honey Brown. That was a big one. Honey Brown, Moosehead. So that's what I was into, and I went to when I was in Southern Illinois at Carbondale. Fat Tire was a big thing. We used to drive to Missouri to get it. So we started like figuring out craft beer, 1554, all that stuff. And so I first got my first kit from the liquor store. I think it was 19 or whatever. I call it a silver kit. And it was just one of those. What's that?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Paulie.
You said you got your first kit from a liquor store, and you went to Southern. I'm following this. Was it from that store that had the little homebrew section in the basement?
Yeah, Old Town, dude.
Wow.
Okay. Because I got a buddy of mine that went to Southern. That's where he was telling me about brewing in the dorms and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
so I lived
told
off
me about equipment, and they walked him down to this basement, and
Yes.
they had a little section of homebrew.
That's how I started. The dudes took me into the basement, and we picked out all of our stuff, and it was like totally underground is a weird thing because it was in the basement, but it was like nobody knew that this place even existed unless you talked to them. They thought you were okay, and they like took you in to like show you. So we
let me get this straight. You went to this liquor store and they said, all right, we're going to take you to this second location. And you're like, cool, sign me up. Let's do that. I'm glad it worked out.
A random dude into a creepy basement to pick out homebrew supplies. That's exactly how it went down. So,
That is amazing.
yeah. That's how I started brewing. So I lived off of
How times have changed.
Yeah.
Right. So I lived off of Beverage Street, which was interesting. So we named our brewery Beverage Street Brewing Company. It was me and my roommates. My roommates didn't give a shit about brewing, so it was just me. And I brewed like crazy, taught a bunch of people in Carbondale how to brew, and I started like showing classes on my front porch, and we'd all get, drunk and brew. And it was cool. And then I came home, and I really wanted to do this, so I just kind of started pursuing it. Stories there, I just kept going with it. So here we are today.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay.
That's awesome.
When you were in Southern, I'm just kind of curious about the timeline.
I left in 2006. I technically graduated in 2005, but I stayed down there and bass fished and brewed beer and left in 2006.
So you started like 2000, 2001?
I started in probably like 2002 to 3 or so. No, because I would have been in Southern. I would have started. I went to a school before that.
Okay, that makes sense. You got all the prerequisites and then went to Southern.
I want to come back to this, but I'd like to send a special welcome to Scott from WNY Brews, who's just joined the broadcast. What's up, Scott? How's it going?
Hey, Scott.
Guys, thank you. I'm so sorry it took me so long to get in tonight, but hello.
I'm so glad you're able to join us. Scott is a home brewer from Buffalo, New York.
Oh, sweet! What's up, Scott?
He runs his own home brewing podcast called WNY Brews. Scott also has a can of Hillbilly Haiku. Do you have that nearby, Scott?
I do. I have not opened it yet.
My God,
it's pretty tasty.
New York
is now an appropriate time?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, please say that last thing again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Go ahead, Brando.
Well, I said I was just surprised that Hillbilly Haiku made it to New York.
Oh yeah.
It had a little bit of help, right, Jason?
It had some help that we can't talk about on the show.
Pleasant surprise this morning.
It was shipped very legally through FedEx.
I mean, we would never do such things, but let's just say,
Jason,
if a snow globe ended up on Scott's doorstep,
It's amazing.
what are you gonna do?
Jason bought it. Something happened. Scott has it.
That is what happened.
Yeah.
Hope we lost Scott.
Oh no, he'll be
No,
back.
no, I'm
He'll be
still
back.
here.
Oh,
Oh, there you are. So
Yeah, we lost your video. Yeah.
I want to
yeah.
I want to veer away from home brewing and craft beer for a quick second because I feel like this is an appropriate place to bring this up.
For what?
Scott is a very, very skilled musician and does a weekly video through Facebook Live where he plays songs on demand for his Facebook audience. And I also understand that Scott plays in a bluegrass band. Is that correct, Scott?
Yeah. Growing up, my dad is a bluegrass musician, and we have been playing in a bluegrass band literally since I was allowed in bars, and that's since I was like 14.
We kicked off the show today talking about what were the two festivals, Paulie, that they were happening in Maryland and Colorado?
No, Delfest, and we were talking about Telluride and Rocky Grass.
Yeah, Rocky Grass.
And we were talking about the big festival, the Bluegrass Fest, the big Bluegrass Fest around. So, yeah, Delfest is this weekend. There's a virtual Delfest all weekend long, so you can see all kinds of musicians right now.
Virtual Delfest. Nice.
Virtual Delfest, is that a thing?
Yeah, it's on YouTube right now. When it was just you and I before everybody came in, you heard me rocking out.
Yeah,
I was listening to Sam Bush. It was definitely Sam Bush. I couldn't recognize. I think he was playing with some McCurry, but they were doing Sneaking Sally Through the Alley. It was fucking amazing. Like, hold on, I'm getting attacked. Like when you chimed in, I'm like, let me turn off the speakers because I can barely hear you. I'm all doing stuff like this. Yeah, I mean, there's like all kinds of like this weekend. There's all kinds of virtual music going on. I don't know if you heard about this, Brando, but like Delfest, it's supposed to be happening. They're broadcasting all these musicians all weekend long on YouTube.
I'm gonna check it out tonight. I haven't looked at it at all. I watched just that fish dinner and a movie last night, but I'm gonna watch Delphi.
Yeah, that's really good. And then
I'm gonna dive into this too. I love this.
On Friday night, I don't know if you've heard about the Shakedown streams.
I
Grateful Dead.
What did we watch? That was 2 nights ago. We watched one of the Shakedown streams like a week ago or whatever. That was awesome.
They did the Grateful Dead movie. What I've caught, the Grateful Dead movie, The Closing of Winterland, which is a completely funny story. I don't want to get. Do we want to get in this rabbit hole? We could.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole.
Please, the floor is yours.
All right. So the whole Closing of Winterland, it was New Year's Eve, mid-70s. I can't think of the date off the top of my head, but there was a venue in San Francisco that was closing down, and it was New Year's Eve, and they had, from what the only two bands that I remember was the Blues Brothers with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, and the Grateful Dead, and show started in the mid-afternoon, and it went till 6 a.m. because the Grateful Dead didn't come on till after midnight, and like that whole midnight set, they do. Outside of the drums, it's like not. I'm gonna look it up, but I'm not gonna look it up. But regardless, check it out. It's amazing. But at 6 a.m. when the show is over, Bill Graham, because they're closing the place, he's feeding eggs and champagne to all the people attending the concert on the way out.
Did you say eggs and champagne?
Yep, that's what I've read.
Sure.
That's quite a combination.
Grateful Dead, a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah. I'm sure there wasn't any substances that contributed to that at all.
Eggs
God
and
bless the
champagne.
Grateful Dead.
If it wasn't for the Grateful Dead, we wouldn't have the music. A lot of the music that we have today.
They
That's
did
probably
pave the way.
true.
No question about
that's
that.
probably true.
A lot of stuff.
So,
Did we lose Scott?
yeah, I don't know. Scott, you there?
Nope, I am still here.
Okay.
Oh, But this Friday, it's a show from '72, Brando.
Hell yeah, I'll check it out.
It's gonna be. It's called the Shakedown Stream. Just Google
Nice.
or YouTube it, and
Right,
they've been
right.
doing it every Friday night, and they've been bouncing back and forth. So
Cool.
when you're sitting at home having a beer with your family, and like, oh, I can hear the Grateful Dead. It's amazing.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
thank you very much.
Well,
You know
I'm probably
what?
gonna sign off here pretty soon. We gotta put Mabel down for bed, cook some dinner.
You know what? I think we're at a good time to close
I think
out.
we are.
We all good? All right.
I
Yeah,
really
you
hope you guys asked me to be on it. I really appreciate it. So
Listen, this was
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you.
And on
And,
All
Hey,
right.
Jason,
on a personal note,
you just get engaged.
Yes, I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. She's watching this webcast right now. She'll be flattered you brought that up. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know,
and hey,
I
on a
don't do
personal
lot of
note, thank
social
you
media stuff,
for.
but, like, I did see that on my feed, so I was pretty excited for it.
Thank you. What were you saying, George?
Saying on a personal note, Brando, thank you for helping us get started and answering our dumb questions
Yes.
and giving me that boot quote that I will never forget. So
There's never a
Yeah.
dumb question, and I can't remember the dumb food quotes. But you know what? I hope you guys throw a boot in your next mash.
You know what? Not only will we do that, but you'll see pictures of it.
yeah, we'll take
And,
pictures.
and
yeah.
those will make their way over to you.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
All right. Before we send today's
Yeah.
show out, we'll give out our web links. Check us out at www.aniceplacetobrew.com. Our podcast is found on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcast from. Our social media links on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are A Nice Place to Brew or Nice Place to Brew. We do our webcast here every Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Brando is part of Werk Force Brewing out of Plainfield, Illinois. His homebrew supply store is called Chicago Brew Works. Brando, you got any social media links or web links you want to throw out?
I've got this right now.
Okay, fair enough. We can throw them in the description for you.
You got it. All right. To send this out one last time, we all raise a glass.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. It
Cheers.
takes a lot of good beer to make great beer. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Can you wait?